Thank you very much, Todd. And thank you for inviting me. Thanks to Simon and the whole Portable PPB team for the innovation. I'll take you through how we've used it so far and provide a little bit of direction as to where we're going with the use of portable PPB and detector technology. Now, this is not my sort of normal presentation at all. I am Managing Director of Ariana Resources. I've been involved with the company since its beginnings, 20 plus years ago. We listed on the London Stock Exchange in 2005 and only recently listed on the ASX about 2 months ago. So this is the first presentation that I'm giving on this technology in the context of the ASX in particular. So I'm taking you to Zimbabwe, which is where we've secured a major asset, the Dokwe Gold Project in the southern part of the country, about 110 kilometers away from the city of Bulawayo. It actually takes me all the way back to where I started my career. I was based down at Howe Mine back in '96, and then spent some time on some of the other deposits that were part of the Lonhro stable at the time before eventually moving to Australia. So it's wonderful to be back in Zimbabwe in this particular part of the country. You saw on the earlier slide the beautiful hills of the Matopos National Park, which is to the south of Bulawayo. And you know, it is an amazing country to work in, just generally, and particularly in the gold space, being a very prolific granite greenstone terrain. Very similar to the Eastern Goldfields, and in fact the same age of mineralization. So that sort of broadly sets the scene for you in terms of the geology. This is the Bulawayo Greenstone Belt in outline. That's the exposed parts of the belt and the distribution of the known gold deposits. The Dokwe discovery was made about 20 years ago by Rockover Holdings. And that was really the genius of Nick Graham. Some of you may know the name. He's been an incredibly prolific explorer in southern Africa and Zimbabwe in particular. And they utilized low-level detection technique, working with Genalysis here in Perth, to make the original discovery through cover. So this is the cover sequence. So this is Kalahari and Karoo cover. So a veneer of Kalahari sand, loosely consolidated a couple of meters. And then in the case of the Dokwe North discovery, which is the main deposit, that's through almost 40 meters of Karoo calcrete and some silcretes intercalated. They used a wide-spaced technique to eventually hone into Dokwe North. I won't say too much more about the discovery history, but it really is quite incredible that they were able to make a discovery on what was a 1.2 part per billion gold anomaly, and then drill tested that successfully. Now I'm sort of taking a strange approach in this presentation, a backward step, because we actually did this bit of work after the bulk of the presentation that I'll talk through, and that's the use of detector on drill core. So we actually did the drill core work first as part of the due diligence program that we were undertaking before we acquired the Dokwe asset from Rockover. So the reason I'm doing it back to front is because, just again, to sort of help set the scene and build on what I've just said about the soil sampling, and also to demonstrate again, once again, that the technique really does work, and in this particular case through quite substantial cover. So we ran initially an orientation line through the Dokwe North deposit. So this is the pit outline. This is the pre-feasibility pit outline. And then ran that north-south line and a few other lines across on the east-west, just to see what response we got from the deposit sitting in the Archean beneath the 40 meters of cover. And you can see from here, pretty colors, we've got a really nice gold anomaly utilizing detector. We then expanded that grid out, eventually collected over 10,000 samples across the whole project area. 44 kilometers squared was covered. And certain areas we then, so that was standard PXRF, but certain areas we then selected for detector work. And one of the areas we looked at was this one, because we had this nice arsenic anomaly, and these deposits, we do see mineralization where we see the arsenic anomaly in the PXRF. And in that case, we then got this cluster of gold anomalism just off to the side of the arsenic anomaly, very similar to what we see at the Dockway North deposit itself here. So this sort of somewhat coincident and almost parallel anomalism. We're actually drill testing this now, so watch this space. We've got an RC program going in there, so that's quite exciting. Now on to the main part of the presentation. I won't go through this. This has already been dealt with very effectively by Todd. The main point is that we decided to use this as part of a DD program. When we drilled 4 holes into Dockway project, 2 into Dockway North, 2 into Dockway Central. These were diamond holes. We wanted to analyse the fines from the cut sample. So this running the drill core through the sample cutter, collecting the fine material, and then putting that through portable PPB. Now obviously there's a drop off in the number of samples that you can actually deal with in that form, simply because you have to go through the process of thoroughly washing the equipment afterwards. And then just visually, the sequence of work running from the core cutting there through the critical drying stage, and then obviously loading, rolling, and then on the analysis. So all of this we've seen before. Just a few more samples of the setup that we've got there on site at Dockway, and this is now running as part of the work that we're doing on the RC program. So it's quite a nice setup that we've got. And again, I won't dwell on this. Enough has been said about the QA/QC. The only important point is that we also insert some of our own field duplicates and blanks into the sample analysis sequence. And now going on to the results of the work. What we wanted to do eventually was to compare the portable PPB detector analysis results with the fire assay. So I've just selected one hole here, DPD 129 on Dockway North, and you can see the results on the furthest side there with the detector, and on the near side the fire assay results. So just graphically you can see the response that we're getting is very similar indeed across both detector and fire assay, even at some of these lower levels. You also note that in this particular case, irrespective of the geology, that there does seem to be a sort of drop-off in response. Now some of that can be associated with sulfide, and that was noted previously. That is actually very useful. It's useful information to determine whether there may be a refractory aspect or some other issue from a metallurgical perspective. So it gives them a sort of early warning sign to say, okay, is this something that I need to investigate a bit further? Now in the case of most of the work that we did through the oxide ore, we were getting excellent correlations, and that's what takes me on to this. So this is actually a combination of a couple of the drill holes, Dockway North, the DPD 129 hole that I've just shown, and DPD 131 from Dockway Central. Dockway Central being the satellite deposit located 2 kilometres to the south. Quite different geology in both cases. And this is the combined data set for just those 2 holes. And you get very good correlations. In fact, we get even better correlations on a hole-by-hole basis. And we see the correlation between the assay and the detector. This point was made a little earlier. The correlation between the assay and the detector results were very similar and actually stronger than the lab-to-lab correlations. So we were sort of quite astounded with some of the results that were coming back, and it sort of helped lead us into some of the further work. And I should have pointed out, actually, we've actually got 2 of these units, and we've tested sample type, different sample types, whether it's soil, RC chips, or diamond core, across different types of geology. So the other unit that we run is in our Turkish projects, and the unit's based in Ankara. We've run it through epithermal gold, gold-silver, low sulfidation style, porphyry systems, and VMS. And we're getting incredible results across all different types of geology, as well as the orogenic case shown here. Now, the other important point to make, and perhaps this hasn't really come out in previous discussion, but there's certainly a lot to be said about how we can utilize some of the data coming out to draw some conclusions or just understand our geology a little bit better. And I'm not saying that we've got the answers, it's just some interesting observations were made. Now, I've mentioned the strong correlation that we're seeing in the oxide gold ore and weaker in sulfide, but we're also seeing some difference between the correlations that we're getting off different types of geology. And as I said, we don't have the answers just yet. There's more work that we need to do on our particular deposit at Dokwe to understand this better. But we're getting very strong correlations in the case of the major hosts, the quartz porphyry, it's a quartzite porphyry, and the dacite, and the quartz veins that we're seeing at Dokwe Central. In the case of some of the other units, the felsic tuff and the rhyolite, we're not seeing the same level of correlation for whatever reason. But quite clearly, we can use that to define mineralization and or metallurgical domains. Again, I won't dwell on this. A lot of these points have been made very eloquently by Todd. But the key thing is that this is a tool that is very effective across a whole different range of sample types, be it soil all the way through to drilling samples. We are running RC samples for the first time in the case of Dokwe, so we're very interested to see what comes out of that work. But the key thing is absolutely the cost and time saving. Time is money at the end of the day, and we're seeing the benefit of that in all the work that we've done to date. And we've been only using this for just over a year now, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with the whole team at Portable PPB. And you mentioned collaboration. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Exploration is a collaborative approach, and we've been very grateful to the support that Portable PPB has provided. We're looking forward to adding to your database at the end of the day. Yeah, thank you. And lastly, there's a bit of unusual gold mineralization from Dokwe, the very coarse gold that we see.
Any questions for Kerim?
So you're doing the same in your Turkish projects or wherever in Eastern Europe?
So in the case of Turkey, yes, we've mainly used detector on soil sampling and RC, historic RC chips. And as I said, across a number of different deposit styles.
What sort of cost saving are you getting per sample if you're taking?
Well, it's time, time, labour, all of those things. So, I mean, that's quite an interesting point. We haven't done like a full-blown analysis of the savings, other than, looking at the individual sample cost saving. But then when you're starting to consider, particularly in a more remote site, and sending samples off to assay, the time associated with that, the cost of that time, and then the feedback from the laboratory. I mean, decision making, that's the thing. It's the cost of decision making that's ultimately critical, and it's quite difficult. That can be a little bit intangible. But there's an absolute, there's a direct cost saving without a doubt. You can cut the costs in half.
And in the countries where labour's really cheap, you get that crushing capacity at your site.
Well, exactly.
You can use that.
Yeah. And in the case of the orientation work that we did here, that program, because in that sort of environment in Zimbabwe, labour being cheaper, you can run a much larger program than perhaps you would do elsewhere. And say, well, okay, you're going down these lines anyway, rather than collecting samples every 100 metres, collect them on 25-metre centres. Just get the samples, because they're out there anyway. And then worry about the analysis later. And we've taken that approach too. Alternate samples, on the 100-metre spacing, and then you've already got the sample in the field camp to do the infill on the 50-metre and the 25.
It's quite important as well
Yeah.
to be offering local employment.
Yeah, exactly.
Local communities.
Yeah.
We benefit from that as well.
Yeah.
Saying, look, we're getting assays out on site rather than sending the samples off to Bulawayo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or Harare, say, for analysis, or
Definitely.
even down to South Africa as it would be otherwise.
Yeah, and actually, so that touches on another very important point. Getting material out of some countries is problematic, and Zimbabwe's got harder over the years. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just harder to get the material out. So if we can run a technique that demonstrably works in the field and have that sort of collaborative approach within the field team itself, where that great case study, that was amazing, where the field team is sort of involved in that process, and down to the guys that are sort of loading the barrel, they're involved intimately in this whole process, and some of these people they might not have even seen an XRF unit before, but to teach them and to give them the opportunity to learn with us, that's been incredible.
Worth pointing out, you also made that barrel on site.
Yeah, we did.
That's not one of us.
Yeah. So when we were running, I think, did I have the? Yeah, this was the original. We had some problems with the original barrel, but anyway, we solved it. That's right. So we developed these hanging racks to let the samples dry out as much as possible before then putting them into the dehydrator. Yeah.
So have you done any regional sampling? In other words, would you consider selling your services, so to speak, both in terms of training and treatment potentially of samples?
That's an interesting point. In the case of the setup that we've got at Dock, where at the moment we've got our hands completely full, but in the case of our setup in Ankara in Turkey, that is a possibility. Yeah, it's one of the things that we've thought about down the line.
And now with the new program you're just running now,
Yes.
RC, is the plan to sieve the samples?
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yep.
to 1 or 2 mil?
2. Yeah. Yeah.
2.
Yep.
And put everything in the pouches. And,
Exactly. Yep.
And that's,
Yep.
you started that yet?
We have started that now. There's not too much I can say. Suffice to say that in this area to the northeast of Dokwe, some of the drill holes have already gone through into the basement, into the Archean. And one of the things we wanted to understand is at that interface, whether we were getting anomalism to the same level that we're seeing here. So, sorry, this is not the best of images, but these are quite low detector unit responses. But are we getting that same response early into the basement? And I think I can say safely is that yes, we're getting the same response. So that's, through 40, in that case, 45 meters of cover.
And that's calcrete cover.
Largely calcrete, yeah. So it's calcrete with intercalations of silcrete, and then a veneer of sand.
So
Yeah.
does it vary in area and response?
Well, there's not enough data at the moment. There's only a few drill holes that we've been able to send off through the detector analysis, and only the top parts of the holes so far. Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.